I would like to welcome our keynote speaker for the day, Mr. Rajeev Menon, Strategic Advisor at Talview. Over to you, Rajeev.
Sure. Thank you so much, Pratik, and a warm welcome to all of you. On a Friday evening, I know you are at the end of the week in a holiday month. I'm going to keep it as interesting as possible for you in this session and try to help address an important problem that we've always faced in the industry, and we're going to face even more in the times to come. I have been associated with the talent industry for about 18 years now, specifically working with a bunch of assessment companies and learning companies. I'm very passionate about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I've authored a book called Apples and Oranges on it. At Talview, I've held several roles, including that of the Chief Business Officer and Chief Product Officer. I currently help Talview in terms of providing strategic advice to recruitment, Talview and a couple of other companies as well, in providing strategic advice on recruitment tech and ed tech. A quick word about our partnership with Microsoft, because this entire webinar is being done under the aegis of the Microsoft partnership. We were part of the global roadshow in 2017 along with Microsoft. We were selected among the top 14 enterprise-ready startups out of 600 plus at that point of time. We graduated from the Microsoft Accelerator at that point of time. We've been very closely working with Microsoft all along. So we are pretty much a Microsoft house. As you will see that we built a lot of our technology on the Microsoft platform, as well as the fact that we have enabled a lot of our hiring tools on top of the Microsoft ERP itself, right? And we've progressed along this relationship from 2017 onwards, including getting identified as one of the top 5 Microsoft ISVs in 2018. We were part of Microsoft Geo Expansion Program in 2019. We won awards with Microsoft as the best AI application for societal impact in 2020. It was a good feather in our cap. And lastly, we've now launched Talview Interviews, live interview platform on Microsoft Teams itself, which allow you, if you're a Microsoft house as a company, you don't even have to get out of Microsoft environment to actually access Talview's powerful hiring apps. And that's the extent of partnership that we have with Microsoft. As I kind of mentioned, we have worked very closely with Microsoft, collaboratively trying to bring a platform to the world that helps in easing the hiring problems of today, and just an expansion of what we've done with Microsoft in this slide. Okay, now let's come to the point at hand, or the topic that we are going to discuss, which is mass hiring. Now, mass hiring is existed in India for a very long time, right from the time in 2005 when I started my stint with hiring technology. I have seen mass hiring as a very important tool for hiring, specifically for the Indian geography. It might not be so as important for, let's say, a different geography where the numbers are small, but in India, it's a big, it's been a key trend, because if you look at how enterprises have scaled up in India and maybe even Southeast Asia in the last 10 to 15 years, you will see that they have grown exponentially. Most enterprises have grown exponentially. Very few of them grew in the 5 and 10% kind of a range, right? Typically, you would see people growing, almost doubling the headcount almost every year once they set shop in one of these geographies. What are the key trends in mass hiring that we are seeing, which is different in 2022 and 2023 compared to how it was earlier? We all know there are headwinds. There are headwinds of recession, etc., that's coming in, and you'll be surprised. You might be thinking, "Hey, people are talking of reduction in hiring numbers. Why is this person talking about a mass hiring being a key problem to solve?" The answer to that lies in the fact that, as we have witnessed in 2000, in 2008. There is an immediate period where hiring crashes down, like what you're seeing now. But once the dust is settled down, you will see a huge amount of outsourcing to India, because most enterprises will be under pressure to maintain costs and also to expand themselves from a business perspective. And the only way they can do it is come to a market like India, where there is an abundance of talent and where the costs are lower. And that's where you will see a huge upswing in mass hiring. And it is better to stay prepared this time, as opposed to the past 2 instances where I think the immediate reaction market was to completely clamp down on recruitment. And then when the demand started coming in droves, it was very difficult to go and hire out there in the market. What are the key indicators that we've looked at? We've spoken to companies over the last year and found that 65% of companies plan to budget for high volume recruitment in the next years, more than they do today. right? Because they've learned lessons from the past. They clearly believe that there's a huge amount of outsourcing that's going to come to India. Companies will use pre-hire assessments because just like you're hiring in large numbers, there are also an equally or a manifold number of people that are applying for these jobs. Then without assessments, it's virtually willy-nilly impossible to process candidates at any process candidates and meet your hiring targets within the timelines that are provided to you. What kind of pre-hire assessments people do? People use technical tests. IT is one of the largest outsourced domains, and therefore technical test becomes the most important thing. Personality test. There is an increase in 2000, 2008, etc., and even many years in the past, you would have seen that personality tests were typically given the go by, barring, let's say, senior to mid level positions. Today, personality tests are critical for even the lowest level hiring. And that's because at the end of it, you're not hiring just a machine, you're hiring a person. And there is an element of the person's personality, hired's personality, that goes into whether the person is successful in the job or not. And the last is cognitive ability. This has proven to be the best predictor of job success in the absence of any other old data, and cognitive ability tests are here to stay. What we typically call as aptitude tests. What are the other metrics? 61% point to the quality of hire, right? 59% point to the time, are the key reasons people are talking about. People are saying that, hey, we are focused on ensuring that the hire that we do is top quality in the first attempt itself, and the time to hire has to crash down. 62% of companies cited ability to access recruitment tools, and there is a plethora of tools that's evolved over the last 15 years, from doing stuff on Excel sheets, which unfortunately some large enterprises continue to do, to everything being run on apps. We have really come a long way as far as hiring technology is concerned. Some other additional data points. 52% of high volume hiring leaders consider AI tools and technology to be effective. Have now come to stay. You would see that chatbots are there in almost every large high volume process. And that's because hiring typically involves a huge amount of mundane tasks. And it's important that you don't burden humans who have the ability to think and do much more with doing certain simple mundane tasks, right? And the biggest challenge is having too many low quality candidates. The funnel is very, very wide, is basically what people are saying. There is a huge amount at the top, but by the time it filters down, the numbers are small. Therefore, the amount of effort that goes into narrowing down the funnel is massive. What are the different types of high volume hiring? Why have you chosen high volume hiring as a separate indicator? Because there are different types there. The first one is the weekend hiring drives that involves typically 1 day hiring. You have to get the candidates to the top of the funnel, from the top of the funnel to the bottom of the funnel in one single day, or even lesser, because these are typically high profile or high skill jobs in huge demand. And if you don't meet that within that particular day, the person loses interest or goes and takes an offer from someone else. Second is event hiring for specific job roles. A new project comes along, the specific job role that's getting hired. You will organize an event where you get people at the top of the funnel of a particular profile only, and then you do the hiring. The third is campus hiring, which has been the mainstay of Indian hiring for the last 20 years at least, right? One of the biggest mainstays in terms of getting talent into companies has been campus hiring, and all kinds of campus hiring, from campus hiring to off-campus hiring to hiring in a pool campus kind of a way, one campus hosting the talent from about 4 or 5 different campuses, and so on and so forth. It's got its own dynamic. Each one, if you look at it, has its own dynamic. Although they all have a common profile of having a high volume of candidates that are getting processed. Now, of course, something that has been done in the past but has not found too much of favor in the recent times is job fairs. I personally believe job fairs are still an important element. One, because in a job fair, you have multiple companies. You are able to attract good people to the top of the funnel, because as a candidate, I would say that if I go to a job fair, I have a better chance of getting into one of my dream companies rather than going to the high volume hiring event of just one company, where my chances are obviously lower, right? That's the reason why job fairs are important. But job fairs comes with its own set of challenges. There is, you don't have control over the candidates. The candidate comes in, goes through the process, halfway through goes to another company, gets an offer there, and moves away. So there are multiple things that play in the entire job fair ecosystem. But I think personally, the job fairs are an important way of high volume hiring as well. What are some of the top challenges in high volume recruitment that people that we speak to have often told us? Let's look at each of these. The first thing is tight deadlines. High volume hiring means that you're processing a high amount of candidates in a very short period of time. which means that you are literally moving so many wheels. Every recruitment is like an end-to-end process, right? You have multiple steps. You have everything from CV screening to scheduling to interview scheduling to assessments and so on and so forth. And if you're trying to cram all of that in one single sequence, right, and each one has to be a sequence which can happen only after the other. You can't have a interview first and a CV screening later. Because of this, the deadlines are very, very tight for every candidate. How do you handle that? How do you ensure that candidates flow through the entire funnel in a smooth way? Becomes an important challenge. That leads to the next point, which is high operational costs. One of the ways of doing it is, ensuring that there is enough resources available, recruiters, coordinators available to do this to the job. uh, Using a bunch of tools. You might be using sourcing tools from multiple sources. You might use an internal referral tool. You could use a, let's say, a tool that you put out there in the market for people to apply on. You could have walk-ins coming in. If you are using multiple tools, then obviously your costs are going to go up as well, and it can completely go out of control. Because I have been witness to many events where you would expect about 500 people to turn up, and on that day, for whatever reason, 1,500 turn up. So and you can't just push people away. There have been instances in the past, and this I'm talking about 15 years ago, where the local police had to get involved. The current requirement of jobs was so high among the people, and there was literally a push to get into the gates to get into the process. Now, if you have to kind of stop that, then you have high operational costs that come in. So third, reuse of data. Candidates, you typically see in a high volume hiring process, especially where there are multiple job profiles involved, that you will have a candidate who will go through a process and maybe stumble at the last hurdle. Now, the fact that he or she has reached the last hurdle means that the candidate is good for 80% of that particular job, which might be enough as 100% of another job. But if you don't have the data about this candidate for in the other funnel, then you will push the candidate through the funnel all over again, which leads to everything from bad candidate experience to time taken to higher operational costs, etc. Candidate drop-offs, a slow and inefficient process. There is enough evidence, and it's very natural that someone would. And in an era where the attention span of people is much much shorter, candidate drop-offs and the fact that there is a lot of opportunities that exist, the drop-offs also can be very high, which is very frustrating because you put in all the effort and push the candidate almost to the end of the funnel, and then you see the candidate dropping off, or candidate doesn't turn up at all, despite being shortlisted. And then the last thing, at the end of it, recruiters are humans as well, right? How do you handle things like recruiter fatigue? Or how is recruiter fatigue is important is one, of course, the entire physical and physiological and psychological push on the recruiter itself. The second is it can lead to wrong decisions being made, which is even more difficult for a company because the cost of a bad hire can be extremely high. Now, all of these challenges exist in the offline world. The same challenges exist in the online world as well. However, the good news is that in the online world, a lot of these challenges can be met much, much more easily. And that is where the pandemic has driven us to in the last couple of years. We've learned to adopt our processes to ensure that we can fit in the online world. And there are tools and technologies that are coming in that will help you to process candidates very well within obviating some of these challenges in an online world as well. So how can you create an engaging mass recruitment strategy? And that's typically what is we are going to discuss in this set of solutions from Talview. What are the assets Talview provides to recruiters such as yourself or recruiting companies such as yourself? One, as I said, of the fact that the hiring process involves a huge amount of candidates at the top of the funnel and a reasonable to a short amount of candidates at the bottom of the funnel, there is a fair amount of rejection to be done, and that is where the assessment range comes in. Second, because recruiter fatigue exists, if you just rely on humans to process a large amount of candidates, you will have a situation where you'll end up doing either a type A error or a type B error. You will get bias. You could start introducing bias into the processes. The recruiters can get biased. There is an interview halo effect that comes in because if you start doing a large number of interviews, for example, if you've done let's say 3 bad interviews, even though the fourth candidate potentially meets the bill, you might end up rejecting the candidate, or someone who just is slight improvement over the 3 bad candidates, but it's still not good enough. You might end up selecting the candidate. So to prevent all this and to make it very objective is where the entire assessment comes in. Now, if you look at the world of assessments, knowledge, skills, abilities or cognitive abilities and personality are the four elements of the bedrock that form the assessment world. Any job description in this world can be broken down into these four buckets of knowledge, skills, abilities, and personality. You need to be able to align with a service provider, or you need to have it in your at your own in your own hands, an assessment service that covers these entire four. There's no point trying to talk to four different vendors for evaluating one person on knowledge, skills, abilities, and personality. You need to have one person providing all of that. Talview provides that. Second, over the last 7 years, our focus has been on something called as insta hiring. Insta hiring is how do you hire someone much quicker than you were doing before. And one of the key elements, one of the key pillars of insta hiring is something called automation. Automation to ensure increased efficiency and scalability and elimination of all mundane work. If you just imagine a recruiter just running around with papers, trying to move papers from one point to another point, or talking to a candidate for a very simple task, are you available at this point or not available at this point of time? All of this is something that really eats into the efficiency of the process. That's where automation comes in. Everything from automated CV screening to scheduling to automated assessments. The third is one of the most powerful tools that Talview has brought into the picture. It's called Interview Insights. Interview is a source of truth. You can use all the tools that you want, but at the end of it, there is an interviewer that is clearing a candidate. The problem is, unfortunately, not everyone is designed to be a great interviewer. Not everyone has the ability to be a great interviewer, and what that leads to is candidates having a bad experience in terms of an interview. Just imagine you've gone through all the process, provided all the data, and the interview, the first question is, tell me more about yourself, or asking a question that the candidate has already answered in an earlier part of the assessment. Makes it very frustrating for the candidate and leads to other problems that I spoke about, including candidate dropouts. How do you make the interview process better? Is by providing insights to the interviewer so that the interviewer can improve over a period of time. Talview has launched a new service on interview insights. We'll be talking more about it at a separate launch, but this is something that you get from Talview as well. So it's not just about the candidates and about the selection process itself, but it's also about making your interviewers better and insights and data to back the decision. So at the end of it, it's one human taking a decision about another human. Now, by nature, humans avoid risks, and the way they avoid risks is by something called as homophily or cognitive biases that come in. Right? You only take in people from IITs, or you only taking people from a top tier engineering college, or you only take a person who speaks in a particular way, etc. Now, these are all very judgmental and very subjective, and this can often lead to wrong hires coming in. And that's where you need to have insights and data to back the decisions, which Talview provides through the entire hiring process, from CV screening all the way up to final interviews itself. What's the difference that Talview brings to the table? I'm sure all of you have heard of many of these things from multiple vendors all the time. How does Talview make a difference in this entire thing? First, we help in reducing the time to hire. The time to hire reduction by itself, it's not just about time, it's about many other elements coming in. Quality is an aspect of time, because good quality talent is available only for a short period of time in the market. So if you take a long period of time to to make a hiring decision, a good quality hire is not going to sit on the bench waiting for you to make the decision. He or she is just going to just jump out to another place. So your reduced time to hire becomes an important metric, and Talview is extremely focused on it. All the mundane tasks, from screening, sorting candidates, scheduling interviews, can be done in minutes with minimal manual intervention, which would otherwise take even weeks or even months. And there is enough data that we've collected over the last 8 years to be able to prove that we've been able to significantly reduce time to hire for people that have adopted us wholeheartedly. The number of days to hire has reduced in one of the largest MNCs that we provide from about 29 days when they started this for lateral hiring to about 16 days, which we are able to reduce in a very short period of time. So that's 50% reduction number of hires, which also means 50% faster deployment of talent to a particular project. Just imagine what it could do to your business top line. Second, reliable decision making with tools such as TBI. TBI is a revolutionary tool that Talview brought into the system. About Talview Behavioral Insights is a tool that we brought into the system about 7 years ago, which uses human speech to evaluate whether the person is right fit for a job from a personality perspective. The key thing is, as opposed to traditional behavioral assessments like an SJT and stuff like that, you cannot game the assessment. These candidates are not able to game it. You cannot provide a socially desirable response, and therefore more accurate decision making happens. And it's not just about providing a yes or a no about the candidate. Also, is breaking it down into the competencies. Which competencies are good for you? Which competencies the candidate is a weak fit? What this does is these insights then go into making your interview process far more robust. You can focus on things that have been identified as strengths or weaknesses, and your interview can be there to either validate and prove those specific points from the behavioral insights itself. It's something that has really revolutionized behavioral evaluations in hiring globally, and we are proud that Talview was able to bring this to the table. The latest product that we have brought to the table, as I briefly spoke about, is something called interview insights. In an interview, if you look at it, there are two people talking. What really happens in many interviews when you're not well trained is that sometimes you don't talk. The interviewer doesn't talk at all, doesn't present all the aspects, because at the end of it, in the interview, the candidate is also gauging what kind of a company is this, what kind of culture does this company have, and stuff like that, right? Interviewer sometimes in the excitement or rather the lack of knowledge of how to conduct an interview sometimes doesn't touch upon the key highlights, and therefore it could lead to a candidate dropping off, or it could lead to a situation where the interviewer is speaking so much and not allowing the candidate to speak much, which means that there is hardly any insight that's happening. It's you've formed an opinion about the candidate in your mind and you're just kind of reinforcing that opinion, which is not a great way to do interviews. Talview Interview Insights tries to break this by providing you deep insights from a video interview in terms of how you conducted, how much did you speak, how much did you allow the candidate to speak, what are the key areas that you touched, what are the various areas that you evaluated the candidate on, etc., which will ensure that the unconscious bias that you an interviewer brings to the system is completely removed. And this improves quality of hire, it improves candidate experience, candidate feels happy that he's being asked meaningful questions, the interview itself is very meaningful and engaging. And the last is with Talview, you get a completely end-to-end solution, which basically means it's a single source of data, and it is designed for scalability. Because we believe, as I said, the insta hiring principle believes that scalability is one of the cornerstones to how we can, improve your the bottom of the funnel. As you said, as one of the points from the survey came out that the number of quality hires is actually less, and the only way you can increase that is also to increase the top of the funnel. If the bottom of the funnel is narrow, if you want more people at the bottom of the funnel, you need to actually increase the top of the funnel as well. And if you do that, when you do that, there is so much of data that's going in, so much of scalability that you need to bring in, and that is where Talview is able to provide you a single platform that has all the information, right from everything about the candidate to the interviewer, and the ability to reuse a candidate. A candidate who's gone through a process did not make the cut on a particular role, without having to invite and get the candidate all over to go through the entire process, you can just look at all the data that's available, the video recording and interview that's available, and take a decision on whether you want to hire that person or not. Third, the next point is about mobile first. We are living in a society where I think everything that you do, you are able to access on mobile. So then why not a job position or a job interview? Our solution is built with mobile as a key focus point in the first place. So we are a mobile first platform. It is both for the recruiter as well as for the candidate. You can complete the entire process on mobile, including the hiring manager as well. And that ensures that you can virtually conduct the Talview interview or the Talview recruitment process anytime, anywhere. A candidate is going from his office to home. Along the way, he's got about a few minutes of time. He can go through one of the elements of the entire hiring process itself. He can be ready for the interview once he reaches home. It could be as simple as that. Just imagine how powerful that can be. That you are able to process your job application by the time you leave office, and by the time and to the time you've kind of reached home, and you do the final interview and an offer gets rolled out. It's as simple as that. At the end of it, it's economical because you are cutting out all the wastage of resources. You are increasing the pace of the process itself, and you are deploying resources where they needed the most. At the end of it, this leads to you saving money, and money is everything in today's world, and that's in today's business, and that's where Talview helps you make your recruitment process not just faster, high quality, but also more economical. What are the levers that you provide to get this? As I explained in the previous slide, you need to have something that gives you complete end-to-end coverage of the recruit process. Whether it's MCQ assessments, one of the most basic form and the most common form of evaluations, right? Talview provides a whole range of MCQ assessments, not just the platform where you can put your questions on the Talview platform, but also Talview's own assessments, from cognitive abilities to technology to domain knowledge and so on and so forth. Coding evaluation, a large chunk of today's hiring is for technology. We have online simulation coding tests that helps you to evaluate a person's coding ability. We have video interview and behavior insights, which is the TBI, the Talview behavior insights I spoke about. We have our the core of our platform, or the biggest expert in the platform is about video interview, both one-way interview as well as two-way interviews. And we just don't give you a platform for you to talk to each other, but we derive a bunch of insights from that process, whether it is about a candidate's behavioral pattern and a fitment for a particular role, or about an interviewer's ability to actually do the interview in the right way. We are able to provide you the entire analysis from just one piece of interaction, which is the video interview. We have a bunch of bots that allow you to do a series of processes on the recruitment channel, on the recruitment workflow, without having manual intervention, and things like automated scheduling that really helps you to crunch time and reduce the efforts. And the very basic of it is the resume screening. We have a very powerful AI-based resume screening engine that allows you to shortlist candidates based on the resume and map it to a particular job. Using all these levers, you are able to actually envision a situation where everything on the hiring funnel can happen end to end, from resume screening all the way to final interviews, with insights being drilled into each level of the hiring process. And all of this is available to you as a recruiter and to the hiring manager. It ensures, as a recruiter, that you hold a hiring manager accountable for a hiring decision. It ensures the hiring manager is empowered to take the decision by all the insight that's provided to him. What has all this resulted in? We have been trusted by over 91,000 recruiters world over, and certification providers like who use our AI-based proctoring solution to remotely deliver high-stake examinations across the world. People like Cisco, Meta, Cognizant, HCL, ENEL, French-based power utility company, MetLife in the insurance sector, Vodafone in the telecom sector, Marico in FMCG, Sephora, a very large retailer in the US. All of them use our products. We have been deployed in 120 plus countries, and 70% of candidates rank Talview candidate app 4.5 stars out of 5, which is a good chunk of people rating us at a 4.5 rating, 4.5 rating scale. Ensures that when you adopt Talview, you also provide your candidates with a great candidate experience. We've on the way we collect a bunch of awards. People have recognized us: the Stevie Award for Technological Innovation of the Year, Microsoft AI Awards, Talent Culture Award, and the IBM Beacon Award. We have been recognized in the industry as provider of stellar recruitment services using technology. So just to kind of summarize, and I know that it's a Friday evening. I don't want to keep all of you waiting for too long. Let me just try to summarize this in a nutshell. What did we learn about today? High volume hiring is here to stay. High volume hiring has been a cornerstone of hiring in India and this part of the world, and it will continue to be so, especially considering what happened after the last two dents in the growth curve in 2000 Y2K as well as 2008 as well. You saw immediately after the dust had settled, there is a huge uptick, and to handle that uptick, high volume hiring would become necessary. You need to prepare yourself, arm yourself with tools that can ensure that you straight away get off the block the moment the demand comes in. It signifies a growth of companies, and therefore it is good. Hyperscale hiring comes with challenges of its own. We went through the types of high volume hiring, from job fairs to campus recruitment to event based hiring. ITS sector definitely requires high volume hiring. Thousands of applicants cruise through the hiring process on the same day, so you are literally managing. It's almost like virtual crowd management. What used to happen in the physical space earlier, you have to do it in the virtual space today. The challenging aspects include sourcing. How do you source at the top of the funnel through an automated kind of a way? How do you schedule people who have cleared the funnel into an assessment process or an interview process? How do you plan for the resourcing depending on the number of people that are coming into the process? And how do you track the results, and how do you make it auditable? We see so many situations nowadays of candidates being identified as fraud, candidates being identified as someone having impersonated that person during the hiring process. With the Talview process, with the number of security checks that we have in place, on the at various stages, you can be absolutely rest assured that we will be able to eliminate, if not at least reduce it to a significant extent, the entire amount of impersonation that you see in interviews. And and next month we are going to launch something called as a hyperscale hiring module, which encompasses all these things. We are going to keep have the industry ready. We are going to create a sense of preparedness for the industry for the very high volume hiring that's going to come up in the year 2023. And we will be introducing the entire suite of products that I spoke about, but we've enhanced further into in an event. The event is going to be held on January 19th. Request all of you to make note of this and be a part of the event. You will truly see how we have revolutionized hiring, and we intend to revolutionize and make it easier for you to hire high volume profiles but without giving up on quality or an increase in cost. This is what Talview has been doing and will continue to do. Some customer success stories. Best Buy, one of the largest retailers in the US, very clearly an endorsement of the fact that we virtually were able to fit into the requirement statement in a very precise kind of a way, and we've demonstrated this so much that they have complete belief in our technology delivery platform. And we work with companies as partners, not as vendors. We work with you hand in hand. We have in-house experts who will work with you to redesign some of the assessment processes, identify the right kind of thresholds, and so on and so forth. Similarly, Cognizant, for the last many years, have been using Talview as their front end for all the hiring needs. We bring a lot of capabilities, and more importantly, what Cognizant really likes about us is the fact that we are constantly innovating. At any point of time, we are looking at the problem statement, trying to bring together a solution that actually is able to provide the right kind of solution to any problem, and more importantly, do a solutioning ahead of when the problem comes in. Just like for now, we estimate and we are fairly sure that the volume hiring is going to pick up in a big way. We want to empower the industry to be able to use our tools to hire people in the right way. Thank you so much. That's a quick run through of what I had in mind. I hope I was able to give you a flavor of what the Talview high speed hiring process, high volume hiring process is all about, and and an invite to all of you to be a part of our event on January 19th.